Two or three people have asked about doing this and really wanted it as quite basic. So I really am going as basic as you can get. So if you imagine that you've got your picture, all right, and there's it's not quite right. There's two or three things that you'd like to do with it. Very often people go up into image, adjust and do and fiddle with it, but you're actually fiddling with the integrity of the image itself. You're actually damaging the original pixels. The whole idea of layers is that you can do whatever you want to it, but it's done on a separate layer so that your picture is still as it was when it was taken. So if you imagine a layer as just a sheet of acetate, you've got your picture, you put this clear layer over the top, and you tell that layer, right, I want to make it brighter, more contrasty or whatever, and all that information is on that layer. The picture underneath isn't damaged in any way. It is still the same as when you took it. You then think, oh, hang on, I could really do with it being perhaps slightly warmer. So you get another layer, which is just like another sheet of acetate, lay that over the top, and you tell that, right, I want to warm it up. So whatever you do, you can have as many of these clear sheets on the top, but your original image isn't altered in any way. And it's a much safer way of working. The layers can be infinitely adjusted, and that is it. That is as simple as layers are. So let's dump that, and I will now screen share.
Sorry, Heather, when we use the word non-destructive, that is what we mean, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. That was the word I was trying to think of, but like I said, yeah, I'm quite basic. So, right. So when we'll start off just with the basic image. It's all right, but it hasn't got sort of any oomph or welly to it. So what we tend to do is, you know, like I said, people will go up to image, adjustments, hue, saturation, color balance and all that, which is working on the image. What we're going to do is we'll start off with what they call adjustment layers. And on the right hand side, if you look where the layers are on the right hand side, which if you haven't got layers up in your little box of tricks up here, if you go to view, follow down, and you will find layer, you go to window and you can find layers there, and you click on that and it will come up on the top right hand side here. Right in the middle, at the bottom of this window, there is a small black and white, I call it a yin yang circle. It's half black or half white. And if you click on that, you get all those options that you had up in image. You've still got all the same things that you can do. So if we say we really want to work on the levels to start with, we click on levels, and your box comes up. I think you've probably all used levels anyway, but one of the little tricks is so that you don't blow the white out or the shadows. If you hold down Alt as you click on the little white square right on the very right hand side, keep your finger on the Alt and move the white slowly in. And can you see where it's starting just to come in? Now, that is showing you where the brightness is beginning to burn out. If I take my finger off, you can still see that there is still detail really all the way through. And you do the same for the other side. Hold down Alt, do it with the black, move it over, and I normally stop about sort of there-ish, just so that you don't overdo it. Now, if you click back on your layer, you will see that Photoshop has automatically put that levels in as a layer on its own. Your original image is still there, untouched, and you can turn that levels layer on and off to see the difference. Now, I will say to you, I'm going to overcook everything purely because it will show up better. Sometimes I would do it a lot more subtle, but I will overcook things just really so that you can see the difference. So we've got our first layer. If we then look back in the little yin yang thing, and you'll see that if you go down, you've got, say, hue and saturation. If we click on there, let's just do a little bit of extra wallop, not too much. And then we click back on the layers. Come on. You see, it's put another layer on, and it is as simple as that. You really cannot go wrong. When, just let me double check with this levels one. Yeah, it has brightened the end up here a little bit on the end of the house. If you've got an area like this, which is quite dark, and you need to just lighten a small area, what you can do is, it's all right, my mouse has decided to go for a walk. If you choose one of the selection tools, I've lost me. Right, quick selection, that'll do. Let's see if that will. Right, very roughly, it's selected an area. Like I said, I am only doing it quite roughly to you know, because obviously Jeff and that have got far more interesting things to tell you. If you do a selection,
no, I would challenge that, Heather. I would challenge
I normally just feather it by a couple of pixels, just to make it softer. You can then do exactly the same with going back into that little yin yang sign at the bottom there. And let's do it that in levels as well. And if you just move the middle slider, well, not too far. I mean, like I say, I am over cooking it a bit just to make a point. When you look at that levels layer, what it's done is that because you've made a selection, it's made a levels layer the same as the first one, but it only, I don't know whether you can see it on your screens.
Yep.
It doesn't, I can't really see it working on the telly so much, but on my screen it is making a difference.
Yeah, just about see it, Heather.
Yeah, right.
Give it a bit more welly.
Yeah. So this is another thing with doing layers. If you click on the layer again, double click on it, it opens it up and you can readjust it a bit more. You're not stuck with what you decided first time.
That's it. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So when you click back on the layers, although I have made that layer, I can go back into it and adjust it again. So you're not stuck with, you know, what decision you made the first time. So what I was saying really was you don't have to do the whole of the image with levels or hue, saturation. You can make a selection of a small part and just make a layer that affects just that area that you've selected. It's right. Brain and that is gone on holiday. Right. So one thing you do want to do though is, if you do want to fiddle with something and it doesn't really work, just make sure that you are clicked on the right layer, because sometimes you can get yourself in a right 2 and 8 and it doesn't work and you think why, and it's because you haven't clicked on the layer that you want to alter. That happens to me quite frequently. When you've made what we call your global adjustments, which is sort of say over the whole of the image, you can use layers of really powerful, and you can use them to make what we call local adjustments. And one of the ways of doing this is with a grey layer, what we call a 50% grey layer. I will talk you through actually making this grey layer to start with, because what I tend to do is I make an action, so that because it's something I use a lot, I just click on the action and it does it. But down on these bottom bar, on the bottom next to that little black and white thing, the last but one is, it says create a new layer. If you click on that, you see it's put a new layer up at the top of your list. Then I tend to do it over here. I go to edit up on the top left, fill, and it tells, I've got the option. I can do it black, white, foreground, background, or 50% grey. And the blending mode I've got as overlay, and it didn't do it, did it? Right, edit.
There's a
Fill.
change blend mode to normal first. So
Yeah, I was going to say, what you it should be overlay afterwards. Okay. No.
You haven't copied the actual image, Heather. You've only copied one of the layers. You need to
Yeah.
copy the image
No,
itself.
you don't. No, you just do it on a layer.
Heather, is it because
Oh,
the
hang on,
layer
look.
below
Got a
was
selection going.
There's a selection going on in the middle there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I mean. It's on the selection.
on that little bit in the middle.
Yeah.
No, edit, fill. I told you this was going to be good fun.
I've done
Why
that
is
layer and start again, Heather.
Yeah. Right. So create new layer. Edit, fill, 50% grey. Okay. Now, why is it not doing it? It's not doing it, is it?
Do you need to click in the box to create the grey? Yeah, click in that white box there.
Yeah.
And then do the create
Yeah, but I was.
50%.
Yeah.
Were you?
Edit, stroke,
You're doing a stroke.
stroke.
A stroke.
I'm having a stroke.
Fill.
Fill,
50% grey.
50% grey, normal, opacity 100%. Okay. Now you tell me. You tell me why that won't.
Where you said fill, there's a little box saying preserve transparency. Don't know whether that's got something to do with it.
Oh, I've never seen.
Fill.
Yeah. You're a genius.
I know that.
Oh dear. How did that get ticked? Right. Now, at the top where it says normal, you just click on there and click on overlay.
turn
You've
your
got your
other
other layers turned off, Heather.
Yeah. Right. I'm going home now.
You are home.
Oh dear, sorry about that. You see, this is it. You get one little thing ticked that you've never had ticked before and you don't know what on earth you're doing.
That's part of the trouble using an action, because I do it, you forget little things like that because you just click the action.
Yeah, yeah, but well, we're there now. So I've got this layer which is 50% grey, and because it's on overlay, you can see everything beneath it, and turning it on and off does not alter the picture at all. But the reason you do it as a 50% grey is if you just made a layer, there are no pixels within that layer, so you can't tell it to do anything. So by giving it a 50% grey, you then on the left hand side choose a paintbrush, and I've got me, because I've got my computer glasses on, I can't yeah. Choose your brush, and down the bottom you've got little black and white squares. Let's choose something like a nice rich golden color. I'm going to really make this over the top. Right, with your paintbrush, along the top row where you've got your opacity, have it down quite low to start with. And then if you can see where my paintbrush is, you can just go in and paint areas in without painting all of it in. You know, you can sort of add a little bit of colour. I would always advocate clicking on the layer, double click on the layer, and type in what you've done. Because if you've got 4 or 5 of them, you won't remember which one it is that you've done and what you've done on it. Because if you eventually, when you get towards the end, you think, oh, do you know what, that layer is a little bit too orange, you can either dump it down into the bin and get rid of it completely, or you can go into the opacity, which is up on the top right hand side, and take it down a bit so it's not quite so vibrant. Now, because I've made this is because I'm working here with with ordinary glasses and on computer glasses, and yeah, you see I've got an action, I've just clicked go, and it just comes up, and you can see what it's done. It's put another grey layer up. So this time, if we choose something like a darker blue, I mean, I am going OTT here.
Can't really see it, Heather. Can you turn your original opacity up on the brush?
Yeah, it's not really showing on our monitor and our screens.
Isn't it right?
That's better. Yeah, I can see that go on there.
Yeah, yeah. So if I take the layer off and put it on again, you can see the difference.
Yes, yes.
But this is just you know, change it, put blue, just to make sure that you remember, and you can make 3 or 4 of these. I will do one more just to because there's something I want to show you, and I can't do it with only 1 or 2. Right, so let's click on that. How about some let's have a nice green. I would advise you not to do this on a proper image, because the judge would go 8 watts it with it. It's just really to give you sort of an idea of what you can do. Right, that looks a little bit too green. So up in the opacity, top right, take it down a bit. One thing I will try is normally take it, instead of taking it down, take it right off and then take it back and add it till it gets to what you think looks more acceptable. Now, having, say, got, or better do what I told you, green. Right. when you've got 2 or 3 layers like this and you think, right, well, that's all I want to do on coloured layers, if you hold down Control and click on the 3 coloured layers, keep your finger on Control and press G, what it's done, it has grouped all those layers together. So you don't get huge, great long strings of layers all the way down the page. It's grouped them all together. They're still there. You can click on it, click on the group there, and all your layers are still there. But it just helps to keep it tidy. And it's like all these ones, the levels and all that. If I wanted to tidy it up, I could hold Control, click on those 3 layers, keeping my finger on Control, hit G for group, and it's just tidied them all up. So click on it, they're all still there. You can still access them and change them all, but it just keeps your screen a bit tidier, because sometimes I'll have 16, 17 layers, and if I don't practice this, which is most of the time, I spend ages trying to find where it all is. Right, before I do that, Nick, just let me... Yeah, if anybody's got any questions.
Yes, me, Heather.
Yeah?
A long time ago, when you were at, you remember Icon, when we were...
Yes. Yeah.
You taught me this this way of doing things, but you were using it then to dodge and burn by using the black and white brushes.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's do another one on there then. Right, actions, 50% grey, back into layers. Morris is right here. Let's put our black and white, make sure we're back on the black and white. And now this, you do have to have quite low opacity on. You can darken areas. Let's go silly and darken the clouds underneath. And conversely, if you click on X for exchange, it turns your black and white, it swaps them around. So X for exchange, it's a nice, quick, easy way of changing from black to white. And let's put a little bit of white in the top of the cloud. So you can do silly little things. You don't have to go over the top, but if I turn that layer off now, you can see the difference it's made in the cloud. You can, you know, add a little bit more drama. Whoop, I've overcooked that one, haven't I? Because I upped it for the white. You do find that you need more white, a higher opacity for white than you do for the black. Yes, good thinking, Morris. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But see, just paint a little bit. You're better off just having the opacity lower and just putting little bits in. So if I turn that layer on and off now, that's the original. Now it's a little bit more War of the Worlds. So if I turn all those layers off, that's the original image.
Can I ask a question, Heather?
Yes, please.
The importance of where that last layer is, it's between two groups of the layers.
Yeah,
So it's not affecting the layer above it, is it?
No, because the layer above it, you can move it.
Oh, well, it is now. You've moved it above.
Yeah, I've moved it, but it doesn't really affect because I'm painting on a small area. It's not quite so important.
Yeah, they all work independently, don't they? So
Yes, yeah.
it doesn't matter where they are in the stack as to, you know, whether they affect the adjustment layer below. They don't, do they? Or above?
No.
They only work on the image itself.
Yes, yeah. But another, yes.
Sorry, Heather. If you used to stack up levels, different levels or curves on top of that, then it is accumulative.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The more you add, they all add together. But because this was only just a little bit I was doing in the clouds, where all I'd really done anything was with the blue. Before, it wasn't quite so noticeable, but you're right in saying that really try and make sure that your next layer is sort of on the top, because then you know how it's affecting the other layers underneath, because remember, they are all just like clear sheets that are letting you see all the way through. Right, there was something I thought of then, which brain has gone completely. Yeah. Now we did we did do layer masks, didn't we? With yes, yeah, we did layer masks, but the other way of doing it is like with the hue saturation layer. Let's wallop that up a little bit, just so that I can. When you've got one of these layers, levels or hue saturation, if you click on the white bit, the mask, you can then paint with black, and that will take the black. Black conceals, white reveals.
Yeah.
So let's do it by making doing a completely new layer, just really to show you how it works. If I've got this layer and I choose something like I'll go silly, just so that you can see what I've done. If I decide, right, I'm going to make the roof of this hut red. Right. I told you I was going to go silly, just so that you could see what it's like.
Can I interrupt you for a second, Heather?
Yeah,
there's a lot of talking in the background through somebody else's microphone. Sounds like they got the whole family in the house talking.
Anybody know who that is?
Mark is.
Mark Hurst.
I do apologise. Let me.
Okay, that's not a problem, Mark. Thanks.
yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah,
Just put it on mute.
yeah. So if you've done something like this and you think, oh no, I've sort of gone over the edge of the building as well. I'll have to blow it up so I can see. Right, where I've coloured that in, I've accidentally gone over the end of the building. You don't have to panic, because if you go down next to that black and white sign on the left, there's a square with a hole in the middle which says add layer mask. If you click on there, you can see it's put a little white square beside it. Now, the beauty of a layer mask is that, like we just said, black conceals, white reveals. So if I choose my brush and I choose black, make sure my opacity is up at 100%. Let's make it a bit smaller. If I now paint over where I've gone wallop, you see it's got rid of it. While I was doing it, I accidentally sort of brushed into the roof, and I think, oh crumbs, you know, I've cocked it up. But you haven't, because if you change your paint to white and paint over it again, you bring it back. So layer masks are really, really handy. One thing you do have to remember though is you've got to be clicked on this right hand white square. If you do it on the left hand square, you're actually rubbing out and paint. Well, I'll do it. If I choose black and I just go, I've actually painted on the roof, and I cannot get that back. Well, I can, because I'm going to press Control Z. But by having the layer mask and making sure you are clicked on that layer mask, all you have to do is remember that black conceals, so I can paint away anything I don't want, and then X changes it to white, white reveals, so I can paint it back in again. Any questions? No?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so that really is the very basics of layers and masks. There's just one more layer which I find quite useful, and that's if you click on your base layer, drop it down onto the make layer which is next to the dustbin, so that you've got a copy, Oh, I can't see me. It's right. I've got things up over me doobry what. Go to
Always
filter.
painful.
Yeah, other, high pass, and I normally have it about between 8 and 10 pixels, and click OK. Now, as you can see, what this has done, it's left like a Mackie line all the way across the image. If you let me get rid of it. If you get your erase tool, I mean, you can put a mask and do it that way, but I will leave a bit of it so that you can tell the difference. What I've just done is I've just rubbed out part of that line. If you do normal soft light, you've created yourself a sharpening layer. No, if you can, does it show up?
Can't see it, no.
You can't
Go
see it,
hard
right?
light.
Let's do it
Vivid.
on. Let's try it on the hard light.
That's it.
Yeah. You can do a sharpening layer. And the beauty of this is that sharpening is on a layer, it's not on your image. And once again, you can then take the opacity down of it if it's a little bit too wallopy. Now, where I rubbed that line out, probably doesn't notice enough, but on the there isn't a line around the roof and here, but if you look round the stack poly, the hill, you've got a little bit of a line around the top of it. I think my computer is getting full of come on. Oh, let's see. Yeah, although you've made this sharpening layer, even though you rubbed out a bit, it doesn't really interfere with the general sharpness of it, but it does stop. If you look round this hill, you've got quite a black line that the judges have a whinge at. So you're better off just rubbing out that if I take that off, yeah, rubbing that line out, and then the judges don't have a whinge. And I think that really is the basic layers, the ones that you use the most. The only other one is very quickly, I think this is Marie's favourite. You do exactly the same as a grey layer, but you make a white layer. If I can find out where I've put it, just for speed. Oh, well, looks like that. I lost, when I was doing it earlier, I lost a lot of all my layers and bits, and me pictures just all went on walkabout. But the same thing, make down the right hand side, make a new layer, edit, fill, and this time fill it with white. Okay. And then instead of using any blending modes, just take the opacity down to about 10. And this gives, you know how these lovely soft white images, this is how you do that. Now, you obviously don't want it all over the front, so this is where your layer mask comes in, which down the bottom next to the black and white thing, that one, click on there. Choose your black paint and I can't see whether I've got me 100%. Yeah. Don't know whether that shows up.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, just flick it on and off. Flick the layer on and off.
Yeah. Yeah. If you right click on the layer mask, the top one says disable layer mask. You can see what it's actually done.
Saw it then. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll click it off. Disable layer mask. Right click. Enable layer mask. And that's how you get the soft, light backgrounds. Only having done the grey layer, I thought I've got to do the white layer. And that's it then, I think. Any questions?
Heather, when you were doing the sharpening layer, how did you go about that one? Sorry, I got lost on that one.
Yeah, right. Let me... I can't find me picture because... Oh, yeah, there we are. Right, the sharpening layer. We'll dump that and we'll start again. You make a copy of, just drag your picture down and make a copy on the one next to the bin. Or I think you can do it by, if you just hit Control J, is another way of doing it. Then on that layer, go to Filter, Other, High Pass. And then click OK. They're in your blending modes at the top where it says normal. I'd normally go down and choose soft light to start with. If it doesn't sharpen it as much as I hope, I'll go to hard light. But of course, with whatever you use, you've always got the 100% capacity to, if it is just a bit too wallopy, you know, to take it back so that it's not over sharpened.
As you've got it there, Heather, go through the wiping out of that Mackie line again.
Right. If you take the take that off so that you can see it. I haven't done it quite so sharply this time, so actually let's turn it right up so that it's stronger. Right. I just take the eraser, a small brush, and if I go down the Right, if I just do that bit and turn the background on so you can see it and zoom in, you can't see. You would think that because I'm doing a sharpening layer that, and I've rubbed it out, that it would notice, but it doesn't show that you've rubbed it out. But if you look on the hill, and just in front of the hill where the bracken meets the hill, there's sort of like a white line.
Yep.
Yeah.
It shows, actually, Heather, it shows up quite nicely on the edge of the cottage on the roof. You missed the corners a couple of bits when you rubbed it out. Just on where that little extension sticks out the back.
Oh, yeah.
Just on the edge of the roof.
Yeah, yeah, just there.
Yeah.
So if I click on that with the eraser, and rub it out,
Mm-hmm.
and there's another bit down that bit of the roof.
That's it. That shows beautifully.
Yeah. Because very often, sometimes you see pictures in, and there is like little white lines around the edge. So you can get rid of that, and it doesn't make the image less sharp, but it just gets rid of the evidence. Yeah, look, on the top of the chimney.
Yeah.
Chimney still looks sharp, but you've got no judge whinging bits.
I'm sure I can find some somewhere.
Oh yeah, oh there'll be plenty then, yeah. So that's where we started. And that's an overcooked version where we finished.
Brilliant.
But hopefully it explains layers and masks.
Thank you, Heather.
Yeah.
But anybody that wants any, just give us a bell or whatever. I can talk you through it. To do, and like with that, I've actually made an action, which somehow I've lost. I've got that as an action.
I find it easier, Heather, if I put it into button mode. Yeah.
Now that is something I've never worked out. So I should be grateful for you to teach me that.
Well, if you go back to your actions again.
Yeah.
Okay. And there should be
It's a right click, isn't it, Jeff? Or is it?
They should have a little menu options for it somewhere. Click there. Button mode. Click. Just come down and click button mode.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Buttons. So you just click on the button.
So down. There's 50% grey.
Yeah.
So if you go back to your layers now, you've added a 50% grey because it plays it automatically.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, layer 3.
You can colour those if you right click on where you're in button mode. You can colour them up different colours.
But if you want to recall and add some more in, you have to come out of button mode. That's the only thing.
Yeah. Oh,
brilliant.
Right. Well, the reason why I get a bit confused with it is that I do all my work on my desktop, and I've only just got my desktop back, and of course I haven't got all my actions and things on this one that I have on the other.
Yeah, you can always export your actions and then read them back.
Yeah, but this is the original Photoshop 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we're sort of concentrating on layers tonight. I think actually.
Yeah, but that's very
another.
useful for me.
Yeah. Yeah, brilliant.
So is there anything that I bumbled that anybody wants to ask any questions, and I'll try and put myself right?
No, I think you've explained it really clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, you've Peter's.
That's very clear.
You absolutely brilliant, Heather. Exactly what I needed. So, yeah.
Well, I'm always here if anybody gets stuck.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. It's great.
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Now, can I just? Is Jeff there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I should have run away, shouldn't I?
You should have done. Yeah.
Had a chance,
now,
Jeff.
Because I don't quite know what can't even remember what it was if something.
Blended.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that along the lines of what?
It's a follow on from what Heather's doing and layers.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, what's the time? 5 to 8.
9.
9.
Oh, I haven't adjusted that clock, have I?
Oh no! Don't tell me what to do again.
Right. Well, let's have a comfort break. I'll adjust the clock, and I'll see you. I've got a feeling we've still got quite a bit to do. So, is 5 minutes enough for people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To Jeff for blend if in Photoshop.
Yeah, this is sort of a carry on from layers and sort of a bit more advanced. Gives you a few more options. So we thought we'd start with a test chart that I generated. So if I was to put a color fill on top, I'll show you what layers do. So if I'm getting cursor to work, right. It's down the bottom here. I'll pick up a solid color and just double click on. I'll just put it over on. Oh, come back here. It's right. Just put it on the other screen. So if I just drag that over here, okay. If we just push all this up to the top, then I'll get. Come on, give me a color. So 255 1. What are you? Just for test purposes. Wrong keyboard. 128 and 128. Okay, now
that's salmon. I would call that.
Yeah. Salmon pink.
Now,
pink, yeah.
Over on the right-hand side of a layer, there's this blank space. Yeah, can you see this?
Mm.
Yeah.
If I double click on that, it brings up this other option. Yeah. You've got the blend modes at the top. Not sure what this advanced blending does, but you've got this blend if at the bottom. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Blend if. That one it's set to grey, which is fine because I've only got a monochrome test pattern. So if I just push that to the side and then we'll move that over. So if we just run down the blend opacity, you see it just reduces the opacity of the layer on top. Yeah. So it's applying to everything you've got there. Yeah. So even if we go down then through the different modes, as you can see, it's applying it to all of them. We can be a bit more selective in the way we do that. And let's just go back to normal. Okay. You could add a layer mask for argument's sake, but if you wanted to pick out one particular shade of that color bar, how would you do it? So if I just turn this down, yeah, so as you wanted this middle section here, how would you do with that with a mask? It'd be a big mask and just unmask that little bit in the middle, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But, okay, so what we can do then, if I turn this back on, so what you've got here is the underlying layer that you want, okay, at the moment everything is affected by what's on top of it. Okay, so if you want to protect the whites, for argument's sake, you don't want any correction applied to the whites, you get hold of this slide at the bottom. As you can see, you just need to move it a little bit and it's moved it off the whites. So all the blacks, everything that's non-white is free of color. Yeah, so look, it's not all that's changing is the dark stuff. So yeah, I can split this, make it a bit more finer if I just hold the Alt key down, or the Option key on the Mac. Yeah, and there's a little arrow here. So just press it, hold the Alt key down and press it. It splits. So therefore it becomes a lot finer. So yeah, just bring the other one up. So yeah, so this is quite coarse. Yeah, it's best if you have a look in the middle on these shaded areas here, you can see it's quite coarse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I hold the Alt key down, I can now feather it, if you like. As you can see now, it's becoming feathered.
Right.
So I can affect the greys on that one. So, and also this end, you've got the blacks. Yeah. So therefore so you're not applying any correction to the blacks. So this works in the reverse order as what the whites did. Press the Alt key down and I can split it and make it a lot finer. I can combine the both. So therefore I've got a very narrow band in the middle where I can apply the adjustments to. So I can now apply the opacity to turn it up and down, or change the blend modes. And it's only affecting those areas that I've selected.
Can I just ask, how will you know how much to put on if you can't see your picture?
It depends how you want to do it. I mean, you can adjust the opacity to bring it down to what you want. Yeah, to start off with, but if you can't see your picture, you know what you want to reveal. Yeah. I mean, because it's only a monochrome, you can say, get hold of these sliders and get roughly to where you want to be. You can say, okay, I've gone too far. I only want these in the middle here. Yeah. So I've relieved all the whites and I'm only applying correction to the bottom half from the whites to the mid grays. Yeah. So if I now get hold of this and go through the multiply, you can see the blacks to the mid grays are not affected. So effectively, you've applied a mask to those. Yeah. So I can narrow that band down by protecting the whites. There is a scale in here that's got, which goes from 0 to 255. And it gives you some resemblance of where you are. So I've got it down to one square now, one narrow band of grey. And of course, so the beauty of it is you try and do that with a mask. You would find it quite difficult, wouldn't you, Heather?
Yeah.
So that's taken care of the monochrome. But because it's monochrome, you've also got red, green and blue as well. But because this is a monochrome test pattern, it's all going to have the same effect. Okay.
All right.
So let's just do this and do that for argument's sake. And then I can click OK. And that's done. And you can see you've got a little label here that says, yeah, it's you've got an advanced selection on it, if you like. So all the opacity stuff still works the same. So all your layer information will work the same. So let's Oh, go away. Yes, I know you're saving. Now bugger off. Right. Close. Thank you. Right. And we go to a color chart. So I've just created these bars and just did a gradient fill of the opposite color. So you got yellows opposite the blue, cyans opposite red, magentas opposite green, and I put a grayscale one at the bottom. And to get it to segment like this, all I've done is put a posterized layer on it, and I can adjust the number of layers that I've got on it. Okay, so these are all different. These rectangles are all different layers. So I can turn the posterize off. You can see it's a standard background, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4. Okay, and then just to show the effect, how the effect works, I've just posterized it. So I've got 32 steps, yeah, between the opposite of colors. Okay. I'll put my gradient fill on top, or my color fill on top, and if I double click on it again, as you can see with the whites, it's affecting the whites and the lightest colors. Let's just make this a bit smaller. Ooh. Right. And we'll put that over there. As you can see, the whites this time are affecting the lightest colours, which are yellows and the greys, not affecting anything else. If I go to the blacks, it's doing the blacks and then the next darkest colours as we move down the scale. It's not affected the reds or the greens in this mode yet. So what we can do is close that. Now, if I select red and I don't want the effect on the red, I can get hold of the slider thing. As you can see, it's moved the reds. So to make yellow, it's red and green. Yeah, and this is red and blue. So therefore, it's going to affect it because it's got reds in it. Yeah, you follow?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as you can see, these are moving quite big segments. They're moving sort of double segments. So again, I can split these out. Oh, coming up. And get, now you can see I've got the finer adjustment of the 32 rather than the big segments here. Yeah, probably a bit difficult to see, but
yeah, no, I can see that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's done the reds. It's different. It says these are blacks, but in fact they're not blacks. I tend to think of them as the opposite color. So this therefore would be red and the cyans. So if I pull this back here, you see now what's got the blues in them and the cyans, which is this one here. Yeah.
Mm.
And it happens to be the blacks as well. So, and again, I can split these out. Maybe this is not such a good thing. So we can push that way. And we can do the same for the blues and the greens as well. And the greens. So we can add the reds to them as well. And you can see sort of what's affecting what. And go to the blue. The blue's already gone because it's already got some colours in it, but you can move it over. So this is sort of the basis of what these do. Now these are, it's good for when you start doing color. Sometimes some people actually use it for color correction, color grading, doing it this way.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, so you can be a bit selective of where you want the correction to apply. Okay, now how does that work on a true, on a proper image? This one. Now what Heather did was paint some blue in the sky. Yeah. and trying to get some and darken the sky down as much as you like. So I'm just going to do it a cheats way for a minute. I'm going to put a solid colour up and keep it black. And I just wanted to do the sky on this and make it darker and a bit more punchy. Now, I have no idea this is going to work, so bear with me. Open up white. So now the sky was white. Right, so we turn. So this is the light area, yeah. So I want the corrections to apply to this. So all the dark stuff I want to protect. Okay. There's a couple of ways I could do it. So if I let's just put a color overlay on it. Oh, it's gone bloody. Right. So, and let's just to show you where it happens to go on it. So if I pull the blacks down, now you can see what it's revealing. And we're starting to encroach on the skies. Yeah. So it's not what we want to do on that one. So it's a bit coarse. We're encroaching a little bit. Yeah. So we just pull that back just a little bit, but we've still got a bit over here. So we could probably go to the colours and try and pull that back again. So what we do is we'll have a look at the reds and see what that does. You know. Yeah. So trouble is, I think the colours are too much like themselves. This is not something I've tried before, so this is a good attempt. So you can see now that it's just starting to come off of here. Yeah. If you look this space here. Yeah. Greens. And then blues. Yeah. Right. That's got that back to where it was. We can come back. Oh, too much. And then just pull this back. That one. Okay. So I can turn that color layer overlay off, and you can see where the blacks are. And that's not what we want. We want it, you know, you can turn the opacity down and we can change the blend mode. Right, it ain't gonna work. Yeah, something a bit moody. As you can see, that's it's easier than sometimes it's easier than doing that than adding a mask, because to add a mask, that's quite a big area to mask out, and just to apply it to the sky, even putting a paintbrush on it. I mean, or we can do another. Yeah. So now if I apply, let's just do a levels for argument's sake on top. Yeah, we can then. And we can do exactly the same with the level. So the sky's looking good. Not so much the foreground. Yeah. The only problem that I found looking at this is that you can't actually group them together. I've not found a way yet of putting them together.
Can you not make one a child layer of the other, Jeff?
I don't see. I'm not sure. It's to say it's color grading using this method is something I've only just sort of started to play with. It's something I saw online a couple of days ago, and so you have to bear with me on this one.
You're getting a bit more blue there now, aren't you?
Yeah, it's coming, but you see, I mean, you can get roughly into the right area. Okay, and then I can actually pick this up and say, okay, I want to mask this off. The brush is a bit small. Come on, brush up. So they've got my black brush on my mask and say, look, okay, all the bits I don't want to bother with. Yeah. Oops, done that wrong. White. Paint that back in again. I don't know. It's just sort of give you an idea of what the application can do. But I think the best thing though is when you're doing overlays. Let's see if I can get this. I'm look in Lightroom. See what we got. Have I got any backgrounds up? No. No, I've got no background. I mean, with backgrounds and stuff and laying textures on, it probably work a bit easier. But you can always go back. So I'll turn that off. So you have to be a bit careful because it's sort of
yeah, it's quite powerful, isn't it?
It is powerful. Once you start using it, and I don't use it when I'm putting textures behind some of the portraits and stuff because I'm on my laptop. I haven't got half the stuff that I want. I've tried using my desktop, but it says you're logged in already, so that was a bit of a pain. I don't know what else I can show you really.
Well, shall we go on to Affinity now?
Well, I can show you what smart objects are, for argument's sake.
Yes, please.
Oh, yes, please. Yeah.
Right. Let's just make a copy of this one for argument's sake. Control J. So I've got my background copy and H. If you right click in that area again, you get convert to smart object.
All right.
Oh, come on, don't mess me around. Right. So you get a little square in the bottom right hand corner of your smart object.
All right.
Yeah. I can't make it any bigger, unfortunately. But what that means is if I go to my filters, let's just take blur, Gaussian blur, and we'll give it a big blur like this and say, okay. Now, as you can see, I've got smart filters. It's put the Gaussian blur underneath it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I can click on that, and with my back brush, he says, "Come on, I've got my white brush. Thank you." Right. I can paint it out. Yeah. But the beauty is, let's just undo that. I can then go double click on it and I can bring it back up and say, oh, look, I put too much on it. I can adjust it, go back to it again. So, and I can turn them on and off. Now, if we go to filter, other, high pass, that 10 pixels, click OK. I can change the blend mode to soft light. And then you're thinking, oh yeah, that's still looking a bit too sharp. High pass filter still here, double click on it. I can turn it down. So it gives you the flexibility of going back to any filter you apply and making adjustments again. So you don't lose, it it's non-destructive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So can you have smart layers, or do they always have to be child?
You can have smart layers as well. So therefore, if I go to this one here, I can say convert to a smart object.
Ah, hence why they're called objects, not layers or masks.
Yeah.
Right, or filters. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's got levels 1, but I can't do anything with it. That's the problem. See, look, levels. What can I do with it? But if I double click on it, will this work? Yeah. So there's nothing there. That is it. See, that's the levels.
Right.
So, but if I select this, let me just try something a bit different from argument's sake now. Delete.
Oh, Jeff.
Yeah.
Tony said, do smart filters take up more memory?
Well, that's a good question. Let's just try it on this one. All right, this one's 172 meg. Yeah. Each. So therefore, if I just do Control J, got a copy. So therefore, if I do a filter, other high pass. Okay. Soft light. I mean, that's still saying 344 meg. Yeah, down here. But it hasn't made any difference to it. Control Z. So if I was to make that smart object, it's still 344. And if I go, let's just have a look, filter. Blur, Gaussian blur. Yeah, I mean, it's pushed it up a bit on that one. I'll just Control J. So we're up to 566 now. If I just do filter, blur, Gaussian blur, 516, 574. No, not particularly a great deal. I mean, there's a bit of different size in it, but not much. But what you can do, which I found out recently, is that, say I've got all these layers here, I can select them all, yeah, and then make them all a smart object, convert to a smart object. And this may take a little time. And what you'll find is that memory size will go down. Hopefully I haven't crashed my machine.
It's a bit like flattening all the layers then, is it? I assume.
Well, you know, but it still keeps them and you can edit them. Now, if this works, okay, as you can see, all the adjustments I've had on it, and the memory's come down to just 2 layers now, 344, which is twice 172 because I've got 2 layers. But you're thinking, well, where's the adjustments I had on this layer on layer 1? I had to cut the blur galleries on it. To get to those, if you double click on the image itself, it will whirl around, it'll open up in another window. Yeah, and you've got all your adjustment layers back. So therefore I can turn my smart filters off, go back to that. If I just bring this down so you can see it. Because it's opened it up as another window in Photoshop, if I close it now, it asks me if I want to save it. You say yes. And it's whirring away, saving. Come on, 50%, and it'll go back to your previous window. So any levels, adjustments and stuff you've done, you can squash it all down to reduce memory size, but still get back to it.
There's no losses. You don't lose anything when you do that.
No.
All right. Because I save all my pictures with all their layers. But yeah, it does chew up memory.
Yeah. So hang on, right. So if I delete that, yeah, delete layer 1. So therefore, if I just chuck, no, not a group. Thank you. Right. Levels. Yeah. Right. Do something a bit garish. And then hue saturation. There we go. What else can we do now? Photo filter, warm it up. Mate, you know, do Mr. Major on it.
Yeah, go on. Have a go with everything.
Yeah, so and then was it? Where is it? Color lookup table. These ones, these are quite good. These 3D lookup tables. So you can add different color, you know, different effects to them. Yeah, that'll do. Right. So now what I can do is I select all of these again, because well, the memory hasn't gone up much because there are only layers. But if you're working with multiple layers and you're doing a lot of blending of layers together, or not compositing, then the memory can go up quite quickly. So what I can then do is select all the layers and then convert to a smart object again.
Gordon.
Yeah, and it's crunched it all down to something a bit more usable. So which one is it? This is the yeah, 483. So now if I close this one, you say, yeah, okay, I'll save changes. So if I just open recent, what do you mean? Swine. Because it's in Lightroom 483, which is this one. Here we go. There's the TIFF. Okay. So if I open that again up in Photoshop, edit original. It's going to come up with edit original. Okay. And if I double click this, I've still got all my adjustment layers.
Right. Yeah.
Excellent.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So if you're adding layers and stuff on, and as you can see, when you start doubling up on images, the memory count goes up quite quickly. Yeah. So you can actually reduce it down back to the original. But you still got access to it just by double clicking on the main object itself.
Excellent. Yeah.
Another thing, just one more thing with smart objects. So if we take this image here, if I edit in Photoshop, that opens as a smart object in Photoshop. Okay. It's got it as a smart object. Now, if I double click on it now, whirly, it's brought me up into the raw editor within Photoshop. And it's exactly the same as what you get in Lightroom. So any adjustments you make here get transferred back into Lightroom.
Ah.
So I doubt if that'll work with Affinity.
Well, no, because Affinity hasn't got the Lightroom cataloging.
No, but if you go from Lightroom to Affinity, has Affinity got anything like Smart Objects?
Pass.
Yeah.
Yes, it does have smart. It does have smart filters.
Yeah. So whether that will take you into the raw editor again if you go as well.
And you can switch from Lightroom into Affinity and back again, the same as you can in Photoshop. You do need to set it up, but it is doable.
Yeah, you set it up as an export, don't you?
Exactly.
Yeah. So therefore, if I can then go. Oh look. So we bug it about with that. We click OK. That's it. And then we'll save changes. And of course, now if I go back to Lightroom, I have all the changes that I've just done. And if I look at the basic panel, oh, it's lied to me. Okay, so that's all right. So it doesn't transfer back into that then. All right, but you can actually edit in the raw files. That's my misunderstanding of that one. But,
oh, right.
Do
you want to just sort of finish up now and give? I'll just do a quick one with Affinity, just to.
Yeah.
Have you still got more to do, Jeff?
Any questions? I know it's a bit sort of hit and miss, but.
Yeah, I've got a question, Jeff. Blend if. Has that been in Photoshop for many of the versions, or is that new?
No, it's not. As far as I know, I think it's been in for since at least Photoshop 7. I assume. I don't know. I mean, it's always, as far as I know, it's always been there.
All right.
I haven't dared to open my Photoshop at the moment, but I'll have a look afterwards.
Yeah, it's sort of when it sort of got caught something on YouTube that sort of somebody was using it, for color blending, matching it in and sort of color blending with the backgrounds and the foregrounds and such like. And then somebody actually saw it, well, the other day doing his color grading with it in Photoshop using layers and stuff. But he had an image like this, and you should take it, adjust the greys and blank everything else out and do it. And I've not had a chance to play with it. It was quite clever. You could see, and because it works in a similar way to luminance masks. So you actually, so you actually select the whole area of all the greys and all the blues and all the red, and of course they're gradual transitions from one to the next. They're not hard lines if you try and do it by hand. So if anybody's got any questions or needs any help, please give it to me.
Excellent. Right, thanks, Jeff.
No, not share. Stop sharing. Thank you.
If you stop sharing,
that's it.
I'll start sharing. I can.
Thanks, Jeff.
Jeff,
Yes.
I've just had a look in the old CS4, which is the program we had when Icon first started up, and they went for 16 years, and they've been defunct for the last 4 or 5. So we're talking about a really old version,
20 years
and
ago.
it's in Blendif is in there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's been in some table.
So it's in the blends options.
Yeah.
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 Brilliant. Excellent. Right. Thanks, Jeff. Can everybody see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is following more on from what Heather was talking about with Photoshop and how to improve images just very, very basically. And in Heather's term with an image, this is an image of Mantua, heart of the Peak District, and it's okay, but it's a bit flat. So really want to improve it a little bit. So if I just, this is your history panel on the left-hand side. Can everybody see my cursor moving around?
Yeah.
Yep, good. So if I click right at the end of the history, you should see it improve somewhat. Still not a 20, I understand, but it's clearer. It's got rid of that sort of mist look about it. So let's go back and I'll show you how you do that in Affinity, and you should start to see some very similar things with Photoshop. So once again, you open with one layer over here on the right hand side, called the background layer. Now, as with Photoshop, you can work just on that layer, but to make it non-destructive, we use layers, which is up here in the menu, right up the top left. And in that drop-down menu, you
can't see the right top, Paul.
You can't. Hold
No,
on. Let's.
I think that's Zoom because you weren't getting the whole of mine as well. I think it's Zoom chops off a lot of around the outside.
Right. Okay. Well, given the time, we'll have to.
We'll take your word for it.
Take my word for it that there's a drop-down menu on the layer menu, and it has adjustment layers here. So the first one, much like Heather did, will either curves or levels. They both do very similar things, but we'll work on curves. And you'll see it comes up with the histogram behind and all the different colors that Jeff was mentioning there. Won't go into those, but histograms, the basic is on the left-hand side is dark and on the right-hand side is your light colors. And that's the same as on the back of your camera. All histograms work in the same way. So to start with, it's a little bit light. So I'm just going to put a node on this diagonal line, which is the median line, just nearer to the dark area. So I just click, put a node, and then I just hold it and drag it down a little bit, and you'll see it get a bit darker. Now to bring the midtones up, so I'm going to do those in a minute, I'm just going to put another node there and just take it up to the line again. Now, probably your eyes have adjusted and you don't think it's changed a lot, but over here there's a tick button and it does just the same job as the little eye in Photoshop, and you just click it and unclick it, and there we are. That's done that bit of adjustment and is non-destructive. It's formed its own layer there. So that's that bit. I'm not going to do it all because we haven't got time, but I'll just do another one, an adjustment layer. So again, another way of getting to adjustment layers in Affinity is down here. This little yin and yang, I think Heather called it, exactly the same button. And there we are. you've got all your adjustment layers. And let's try HSL. There we are. I haven't a clue what HSL does, but it has the hue shifts, the saturation, and a luminosity shift. So what I'm going to do is just adjust the hue. As you can see, that is just adjusting it very, very slightly, not too much. But I am going to just bring the saturation up a little bit. With all these adjustments, it's personal preference. So it's down to you to adjust. So once again, you've got another layer come up here. So you click and unclick, you get an idea. If you want to readjust, you just click on this little icon, double click, and you've got the adjustment back again, and you can carry on adjusting. So you can adjust as much as you like. I will just do one more, which is a selection there. And with Heather was talking about selections. You can do selections in various ways. You can do it via color. You could select the reds or the greens or the blues. Through the tonal range, which I'll do in a minute, mid-tones, shadows or highlights. Or you can also do it fully transparent, partially or opaque. The sampled color one I've never used, but that's obviously using a color picker. So let's do it. I just want to select the mid-tones because it still looks a bit flat. So just click on that. And, oh, got that wrong, beg your pardon. You've got to have it clicked on the background, the pixel background layer. Do that again. So select tonal range, select midtones. And there we are. I don't know whether you can see all those marching ants come up. And that means that the midtones are selected. And that really is a type of mask, which I will just come on to in a little bit. But again, now we can do anything with that. We could go through into a levels, or we could do a anything really. But let's do an HSL again, and just so that. And if you watch now up here, you can see the actual layer has got blacks and whites in it. The blacks are the bits that won't be affected. They're masked, so you can't adjust those. And the white bits, sorry, it's the other way around. No, it's not. No, sorry, I was right. The white bits are the bits that we will be adjusting. So let me just, again, give it a bit more saturation. But if I really whack it up, you'll see that it's not affecting the bulk of the sky, because the sky is mainly black. So I don't want to do it too far, but we'll just adjust it a little bit. Just going to adjust again, it's all personal preference. I want it a little bit redder. I want those brown fields to come up a little bit. So that's that. And then select and deselect, or Control or Command D. So that's the bit. You've ended up with 4 layers, as Jeff did. If you just switch them off, you end up with the original image, which is a bit flat. Switch them on, and you've got something that's a little bit livelier. You could go on and sharpen it, which is what I think I did on the other one, but I'm sort of running out of time. So let me just quickly show you the way. Sorry, go on.
Oh, just to assist you, if you don't mind me, I know you're short of time. When you're on, if you click on your first HSL adjustment that you put on.
The first one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You said you weren't sure what was happening. The way you've got it selected, any hue, saturation or luminosity shift would apply to everything.
Absolutely, yes.
If you just press the green, then any of those changes would just apply to those colours and not to the whole lot. So it is a quicker way than actually putting the mask on.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you was aware of that.
Yep. I'm sort of trying to keep it as basic as possible to start with. But yes, what I'll do is I'll just bring so I've got the greens area highlighted, which is what Mark's saying. If I now just bring those saturation, you will see the greens enlivening somewhat.
Yeah.
So you can do that, and it works with the reds. So again, those fields, the brown fields will come up quite nicely. I had it on the universal color. So yes, thanks for that, Mark. Brilliant. Right, I'll just touch on how masks work with Affinity. Right, let me just find. So this is a shot, nighttime shot. What I'm going to do is I just want to use enliven this area here where it's looking red. Okay, this is just for the purpose of an example. So what I hope to end up with is something like that, where that has enlivened. So we'll start at the beginning, and to do that, again, non-destructive, we just bring in an adjustment layer, and I'm sticking with HSL just to keep that. And again, we could just bring the reds up, but I'm going to leave it at universal color. Bring the saturation up. And you'll think it looks a little bit bright all over, but just hold fire. I'm just going to bring the saturation up, sorry, the hue up, because that's the red I want. So I'm not worried about the rest. I just want to get the color that I want, because you can see I will neutralize I'll just go back to the original image in a minute. So once I've done that, that's what I've done. So I've just really saturated the whole image. But now, with that layer selected, if I now go to the layer invert, you will see it will just go back to its original image. And this is Affinity's way of masking. You can see that the whole image has been masked. So again, the same as Photoshop, you pick up a brush when it will pick up. I'm just going to make sure, yep, that's about the right size, right opacity, hardness. Again, white reveals, black conceals. So I'm just making sure that I'm on white so that the brush will now, and you can see that if I just brush that area, you can be very, very creative with the way you just get, and I could carry on and do anything, but if I think, oh, I've overdone that, I don't like that bit of color there, again, the same, black conceals. So you just bring the black to the foreground and you rub it back. And there we are, it gets rid of it. So you've got, well, a great deal of control with that, to be able to bring up colours within your image in a very selective way. And what you're seeing there is the mask. It gets a little bit more confusing if you actually have a mask as a child layer. But again, once you've got used to using this with a brush, you very quickly get the idea of how layers and masks work. So that's just a taster of how Affinity works with layers.
Oh,
yep. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, Paul. You've got your opacity, your brush on 100%. If you took that down to say 20% or 30%,
yeah,
I take it you as in Photoshop, you'd be creating a grey. You'd be greying it out rather than black and white. You'd have sort of a mid.
I don't think so. Let's go back.
Because in Photoshop, if you just use say 50% brush, the first pass takes 50% of the black off, and then the second pass will take another 50% off. So you've removed 75%, and so on.
Yes. So what you're saying is bring this opacity down.
Yeah.
What are you suggesting?
Well, that go for there, yeah. 33%. There you go.
Right, I've got to make sure it's white because white reveals.
Yeah.
I think you'll find it just comes up with a weaker colour. So that's number one.
That's what it should do.
Yes, that's because you put a grey up rather than a white.
Well, there's no grey there. It's coming back with the colour.
No, but if you look
at the more you go over it, the more the colour's going to come through.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so you can. So instead of being all or nothing, you can
build it up.
Build it up gradually.
Absolutely, you can be quite the artist. Yes, absolutely. And if let me just go back to the original. If you want to do a universal opacity, then you do it exactly the same as in Photoshop with the layer opacity, and just take it all down.
Yeah, that's a global change.
That's, well, for the whole layer.
For the layer, yeah.
Yeah. And again, as Jeff was talking about, blend modes, they're all there, and they're as far as I can see, they're exactly the same as Photoshop. So every layer has got its blend modes. You can alter its opacity, and as we've just seen, a lot of the adjustment layers have got the same thing. So yeah, I think any further questions?
Apart from, has anyone worked out what the flow does? Just below your cursor.
That's a very good question. Right. Is that the same in Photoshop then?
Yeah.
In Photoshop, right, if you imagine the opacity, right, is the color richness of your palette, okay? So therefore, if you water it down, it's the opacity, that becomes the opacity.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you've got a rich red and you water it down, it becomes a watery red. So you put it on, and as you play it on with opacity, the more you go over it, it doesn't get any richer until you release the mouse and click back on it again.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to 100% opacity and decrease the flow is how much you put on at that particular amount in time. So therefore, if you put 20% on, you only put 20% of whatever paint you've mixed. Yeah. Yeah. So therefore, if you've got 100%, you put 100% red down, but only at a rate of 20%. So it depends how big your spout is.
Okay.
Yeah. So therefore, if you keep, what you can then do is hold the mouse down, keep pressing. The more you go over it, the more it builds up. You don't have to keep releasing the mouse button.
Ah.
Jeff, Jeff, doesn't the flow work almost like a spray can?
No, there is a spray can option in Photoshop.
Yeah, I know there is in Affinity as well.
It's best if you open up a white sheet of paper, okay. Put on
you talking to me?
Or anyone, yeah. If you want to get a feel for how it works, open up a white sheet of paper, select a pen, select a brush and a pen color, okay, and a color, and then wind the opacity down to 50%. Draw a nice thick line, and you try and go over it without releasing the pen or your mouse click. You see it doesn't get any darker. Release the mouse click, go over it again, then it'll increase by 50% again.
Right.
Yeah. Now, if you go back to 100%, reduce the flow down to 20%. Yeah. Do a pen stroke, and then go back over it without releasing the mouse. Then you can actually start to build it up that way.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Whilst I've got my image up, any further questions on Affinity?
No, it's made a lot more sense, and I feel now that I could dare try it.
Well, yes, absolutely. And I'm going to give a plug for our Affinity workshop on the 19th of April, starting at 11 o'clock in the morning. Malcolm and myself, because we'll be starting right at the beginning for Affinity. So, okay.
Well, thank you, Paul, for your succinct and short presentation.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And thanks to Heather and Jeff. I have to say that, well, it's good to find stuff that's been on Photoshop for eons and we didn't even know about it. This blend if, it's, yeah, very, very good. But hopefully people can see now the similarities between Affinity and Photoshop. I don't think you need to be scared of either software. It's a means to an end. I think the hard work with photography is getting that image in your head so that you can actually work on it. Doesn't matter what software you've got, as long as you've got that idea in your head and then use whatever software you've got to create it. I think that's the trick. Heather has mentioned that she's happy to help. So by all means, contact her. I'm more than happy to help if anybody's got any questions. I think Jeff said the same. With Zoom, there's, we can just quickly Zoom people for 5 minutes, even if somebody's stuck with an image. Just contact us, and obviously if it's convenient, we can just Zoom you, and that's it. We can sort of get you sort of out of the, well, hopefully we can. So yeah. Okie doke. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Look, it's 9:10. So
Paul, maybe worth mentioning Andy Sands next week, the macro presentation.
Yes, well done, Warren.
Peter from Hartford, hi.
Yeah.
Have you got any publicity of his? I think you put it in your program, didn't you?
Yeah, we've already seen Andy Sands very recently, and he's very, very good speaker.
Yes,
so
yes. Heather and Dave recommended him to the committee. Have you any publicity of his that you could forward to me?
I'll have a look and see what I've got. Yeah, I think what I've got is I've got one of his images which we used in our poster, and you could just lift the text off the poster.
Yeah. Is it possible to go back to one of H2's newsletters from the week before we saw him with Peter, because we put their advert in to
good.
the
Okay,
right, well, I've got it on my desktop computer anyway. I can just send it through to Paul from here. I've got the poster because it'll have the wrong date on it and all the rest of it. But the text and the image is the same, and I can probably send you the image as well. So no bother with that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Just one minor question. I didn't interrupt at the time. I could see the whole of Paul's screen throughout. I had no problem with it at all. And were people saying that they couldn't see the screen?
Couldn't see the top of his screen. Couldn't see the menu on the top.
Yeah, I didn't have any trouble with that. I think it might be because you can change the way you view Zoom. If you go for where it says, sharing Paul's screen, if Paul were to share his screen again momentarily.
Right, bear with me.
Right, so you see the bar, it says you are viewing Paul Major's screen. Besides that, you see view options. So if you click on that and you go zoom ratio split to window, and then I've got it on side by side mode. So all you do then is you pull the screen across. So Paul goes into a small box on the right hand side. I see all of Paul's screen that fills my screen, and I can see pretty much everything I can see.
Oh, so you're not talking about me, you're talking about everybody else.
Yeah.
Right.
I still can't see his menu.
Yeah. Which menu?
The menu right across the top of the screen.
Can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
I am pointing at what it's written Affinity Photo. Can you see that?
No. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
I can see Paul, I can see the Affinity logo.
Yeah.
And then there's red, yellow and green dot above it.
Yes. But there's a menu right the way at the top of my screen.
No, can't see that.
Oh, right, okay.
Can't see the menu.
No. So that, I think, is what Peter's suggesting. Check out your...
Yeah, well...
I've done that and you still can't see the top of this menu.
Okay, so the first line of text I can see says width, opacity, hardness, but there's a line that we've got missing, is there?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's just been clipped. That's clipped by Zoom. Yeah.
Mm.
But the panel on the left I can see, and the panel on the right.
Oh,
so it didn't spoil my enjoyment of the presentation anyway. So
no. Let me just try something whilst I'm here. What about now? What can you see?
It's less.
Can you see that drop down?
Yes.
No.
So
Oh, it's still not there, Paul. The menu.
There was I can see something dropping down, but I can't read it. It's only sort of half there.
There's only 3 dots on it. There's no text on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think it's something to do. I've got turn on original sound.
We just got it. We just got it, Paul.
Yeah.
We've got an additional menu just then at the top.
Did you?
Oh,
I missed it.
Yeah,
it only came on momentarily. Whatever you did, we got it.
Right, let me do that again.
Yeah,
Then.
not there now.
Is it? Did it now? You see me now? You don't.
Yeah. Can you see
It's
it now?
not there, but it was. I just saw it. And it disappeared again.
Paul, Paul, let me share my screen and see if Affinity comes up with the top of it there. Because I notice whenever I've shared your screen, I can never see the menu.
All right, go on then.
Probably the difference between Mac and Windows.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
There's a menu.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And those are important because that's all the workings of Affinity.
Yeah, so we need to.
Yeah, so Malcolm, are you on Mac or?
No, I'm on a Windows.
All right, okay, so yeah, and I'm on Windows as well, but yeah, I can see all the top menu there. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're quite important.
Yeah.
Malcolm, your version looks more like mine does because my Paul's version looks very